Hey everybody, it's MMA Heat. I'm Karyn Bryant here talking with Artem Lobov, who is taking on Andre Fili at UFC Gdansk in Poland. And Artem, thank you so much for doing this. I have to ask, does it feel kind of like a home game for you? Because you being Mr. European fighter, is it feeling like a home game for you?
Absolutely, Poland is not a strange place to me at all. I've got many ties in Poland. My godson actually is Polish,
Oh, nice.
so there's a family connection even. And also, I fought in Poland so many times, and I have faced so many different Polish fighters. Not many people know this, but at one point I was ranked number one in two weight classes in Poland,
Who knew?
lightweight and.
That's awesome. So then what was so overall, obviously you have a very positive experience there.
Absolutely, I love this place. It's a great place. I've never really been to this city before, Gdansk, but it's good to explore and see it, and it's a very nice city.
Nice. So you said you were ranked number one at featherweight and lightweight there.
Yep.
Nice. So for you nowadays, what feels better for you? Where do you like to fight? What's feeling good? Where do you feel the most powerful?
I feel the most powerful in the octagon. As long as I'm fighting, I don't care what weight it is. I never really cared what weight to fight at. I just see it as a fight. I still believe that weight can be kind of overcome. It might, if you're a smaller guy, the strategy might not be as straightforward as if you're the bigger guy, but I still feel that it can be done. Hopefully one day I get to prove that, but for now I have to concentrate on featherweight, make my name here, and climb the ranks.
Well, let's talk about this fight with Andre Fili. Obviously, we know you guys became familiar with each other on The Ultimate Fighter. So was he one of the guys that, kind of rubbed you the wrong way all along? Is he somebody that you guys, because I feel like I kind of remember you guys going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, especially on Ultimate Fighter, we were in competition, there with the other team. So, of course, I was ready to go all the time. So there was a few exchanges, I guess you could say,
Right.
but, it's nothing really personal. You couldn't say it, I don't have any animosity there or anything like that. I feel just fine. It's just another fight to me.
Well, and I also do have to think, when you look at Team Alpha Male, and even though, we know what happened on that show, and I even asked you right afterwards, I was like, hey, can you find a way to be friends with Conor? And he was like, yeah, I guess the guy isn't that bad. I do have to feel like there's part of you that does respect the team that he comes from and understands that, even though obviously this is a fight, and you would love to take him out, but there's a certain amount of respect between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He comes from a great team, as you said. I've seen their achievements. I know they have a very good camp there. They stick together for many years already. Those are the guys that will improve. To be honest, I never really get guys that jump from camp to camp or just come somewhere just to do a camp.
Yeah.
To me, camp that's just to get fit, and you just have to sharpen the tools that you already have. Camp is not a time to learn new tricks. You do that in the off season when you don't have a fight coming up. That's when you can concentrate on something else and learn new things. So that's why if you're part of the same team for a long period, this is when the improvements happen. But guys that just kind of come for this training camps all the time, I don't really see them improve as much. That's my approach anyway. That's my view on that. So certainly, yeah, we have a lot of respect for their camp. As I said, they've stuck together by each other's side, for a very long time, just like we did.
Yeah, I know obviously loyalty is a big thing for you. So if you're thinking of that mentality as something that you've got to be with a team for a long time and you're part of a team for a long time, what has it been for you to be part of SBG? What has that meant to you in your career? When you look back before you were with them, what kind of differences did that make in your career?
Well, before I was with them, I didn't really have any career. I didn't
Yeah.
have really anything. This is where I started. This
Yeah.
is where I had my first amateur fight, and
Yeah.
this is where I'll have my last pro fight. So of course, they mean everything to me. I mean, this is a place where I became a fighter. This is where I learned how to fight at Straight Blast Gym under coach John Kavanagh,
Yeah.
alongside all my teammates.
Well, John is so interesting now too because he has not become a celebrity necessarily in his own right, but he has to a certain degree. Obviously, people have seen the work that he's done with your team. Has it changed a little bit? You hear back in the day when Jackson Wink got so popular, right? So people all wanted to come there and get part of that Jackson Wink experience. Are you finding now that people are trying to be tourists, you know what I mean, into your gym and your camp?
Oh, absolutely. There's like 60 guys on the team now, and there's always, new people coming in, and there's good and bad things about that, of course. There's the good thing, you get to train with some of the best guys in the world that come through the doors. But the bad thing to me is what the team got a little bit diluted. It's not like back in the day. Back in the day, you had to be tough. You're tough or you go home. You survive or you go home. We just fought. It might have been a little bit crazy, but every single guy on that mat was a real fighter. Anyone that was a bit of a sissy or was just a pretender, didn't really want to fight, they didn't survive a day there. They show up for one sparring session and that'll be it. Whereas now, obviously, things have changed. The methods are a little bit different. We train a little bit smarter, so that gives an opportunity to some sort of posers, I want to say, on the team. As a result, you know what I mean? But the core guys, the main guys, the real fighters are still always there, that have each other's back, and we still go back to the tough spars and doing it the right way, because this is what got us here. We never forget that. So we always why change the winning formula? So we stick to that.
Well, I feel like you, and obviously this is a question for you, but after your fight with Cub, some people really had questioned, why did you get that fight with Cub? Then they saw you fight with Cub. They saw you do very well against Cub, and they saw you, the early rounds you were doing very well. He ended up obviously winning the fight, but I feel like a lot of people were kind of like, oh, gave you more credit after the fact. So what was your feeling? What was the response that you personally got after that fight, and how did you kind of process the way that people were saying you had a great deal of success even in losing the fight?
To be honest, I don't really look at what the people's reactions is, because that really does nothing to me in terms of my career. I am my own worst critic. I obviously listen to the opinion of my coaches and people close to me, my sparring partners, and then I have my own opinion on that as well. So I really look at that, and of course I expected to win. I felt I had the skills to win that fight, and even looking back, I still think the same. Like you said, the early rounds looked pretty good for me. Then Cub kind of showed his experience, and he ended up winning the fight. So one thing I learned, that there's a lot more work to be done, which as soon as I got back, I took a few weeks off just to relax. And then got back to work and, ready to take on the next challenge, ready to implement the new things that I have learned.
Nice. So, was it more of a question of pacing for you? I mean, what kind of adjustments will we see in a fight with Andre? I mean, obviously Andre's not the same kind of fighter as Cub, but what kind of adjustments would we maybe see and recognize, like, oh, Artem's doing this a little bit differently?
Yeah, well, to be honest, even in the Cub fight, the first round I opened up and I just wanted to dominate him everywhere.
Right.
Whenever we clinched, they took him down and showed that, look, no one ever mentions my wrestling. Here's number 4 guy in the world. Get your ass down whenever I want you to go down. It was a very easy technical takedown. I felt, that was shown in that fight. This is the way wrestling and MMA should look, I feel. Very little energy wasted on that. Nice control, and that was a good takedown, I felt. But then I remember in the second round thinking, oh, I can stop him on the feet. I want to put him away. I don't really want to waste any energy wrestling, because wrestling can be heavy on the arms sometimes. And then your arms get heavy, and then it's kind of harder to strike. So I just kind of wanted to disengage. And as soon as we clinched, I was like, no, I don't want none of this. I just want to break away and strike. And just as I thought that, he ended up taking me down and taking my back, which he did really well. He is quite skillful on the ground in all areas, really. And then kind of me getting him off my back, that took, quite a lot out of me. I a little bit kind of, instead of just being calm there, a little bit panic, I just wanted to get him off and say, look, you're not going to do that to me. And that cost me a little bit of energy. And when you're in a fight like this at such a high level, a little small drop in energy can cost you the fight then, because he senses that and he is still able to keep the same pace, whereas your pace drops. And Cub, as it is, keeps a really, really high pace.
Yes.
So it ended up being downhill from there. He kept the high pace still, and I wasn't able to catch up with that. And as he was keeping up with the pace, my energy levels kept dropping and dropping and dropping. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm gonna just try and dominate Fili everywhere. I won't really try and I know I'm good everywhere. I can do everything, and also I've addressed some of the cardio issues as well. Plus, this is only going to be a 3-round fight. And that one was my first ever 5-round fight. So
there's a lot to it. Well, and also too, I've hear from some people, they'll say, when you're in there, they were, talking about, let's say, fighting in Mexico City or something in the altitude, and maybe it's a similar situation where you feel yourself losing your energy or losing control of, your energy, and then maybe you start to sort of panic, and then that helps burn more energy more quickly. And, it's always too about the mental part of the game and being able to just try to stay calm, right? I'm sure that's part of it too, even when you know that's happening, to try to maintain a baseline of calm.
Absolutely, because there's two ways of getting them. Because look, when you train physically, you're ready. Like I go, 5 in the gym, and I'm not even out of breath. I can do it easily. It's no problem. But when you are in there, it's completely different. If I try to explain it sometimes to other people what it's like, it's, if you can imagine, let's say, a soccer game when they have to take a penalty. It's very close to the goal. They do so much training. They're high level athletes. They shouldn't never miss. In training, they don't miss.
Right.
But because all the people are watching them, suddenly they can't even hit the goal, and it's absolutely massive. Now, to make it even closer to MMA game, imagine if they had to take that penalty while everybody is watching them, and someone is elbowing them in the face at the same time. This is as close as I could explain to what it's like being in a fight in the UFC.
It's a great analogy. A very great analogy. And as a former soccer player myself, sometimes I played fullback, which I love, but for a while I was a goalie too, and penalty shots absolutely suck from that side of the equation as well.
I was actually going to ask you, how come you speak Portuguese?
Well, you know what? Honestly, Artem, I learned it because there's so many Brazilian fighters in the UFC, and I wanted to years ago. I said, I was at the Marriott Marquis in San Jose, and there was all these Brazilians over here and Americans here, and I said, if their translators and their managers aren't around, I can't talk to these guys, and I want to do more interviews. I want to improve my own channel. I want to be better, and I knew I was smart enough to do it. And this is not necessarily a knock on other journalists, but nobody had thought of it. And I was like, it can't be that hard. I'm pretty bright, and I know other languages, so I started to learn it, and it helped. I still have a lot to learn. I still make mistakes, but the Brazilian people are very patient with me, and it actually gave me this great bonding with a lot of the guys, because I took the time to learn their language. And even if at the beginning I was just saying, hey Artem, how you doing? If I said that to you in your native language, and I said, hey Artem, great fight, I want to ask you 3 questions, and if I said it in your language, you would have just sort of been at ease, you know what I mean? Even if then, whatever. So it worked out from there. And after Fabricio, when he submitted Fedor, he talked to me first, and because we could be comfortable. And so it really was like a work investment and a personal investment in myself, which is why I did it.
That's brilliant. I mean, to me, I feel the language is a big thing. I think everyone should try and learn. I've been at least English. I mean, let's agree now, English has become an international language, so there's no problem with learning it. Let's put all the difference or whatever pride aside and just be able to communicate. Totally. Because sometimes people are so similar, but they don't like each other because they can't understand each other. Yeah. And if they would, they will actually be like, oh, this guy is exactly like me. Yeah. So I feel people should definitely try and learn languages. On that note, though, in schools, the way they teach languages is so wrong. Yeah. They try and teach all this grammar. It's like, what's the point in this? Who cares what tense I'm using? Once you understand me and I understand you, that's all that matters.
I agree. Well, that's the funny thing too, because I feel like I speak like a school teacher sometimes, because I've learned, proper grammar and all this stuff. And then I go to talk to, let's say you're going to talk to, Big Nog or something, and he understands me obviously, but then he'll say something. I'm like, well, wait, that wasn't in my textbook of nerdy words. Do you know what I mean? I need to learn the slang or the whatever. But essentially, yes, we have a really good way of communicating. And I do probably say the past tense when I should be saying the present tense, but they don't care. And so, yeah, it works. It works. It's funny, speaking of learning, I know you were able to spend a lot of time at the Performance Institute. How much have you how much did that adjust maybe your own training methods? What kind of things do you learn there? Obviously, we know Conor did his whole camp, and you were there alongside. So, what kind of new things did you learn about how to train and how to even like save yourself, save your body while you guys are doing such a rough thing?
No, I mean the institute is absolutely amazing. I mean they have every gadget in the world in there. Whatever you want, whatever you can imagine, they got it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. But in terms of learning new things, when you're in camp, there was like 7 weeks to the fight. When we got there, this is not the time to learn new things.
Right, as you said, right. You're not learning, right.
Yeah, we had to stick to what we already know. We had to stick to the game plan that we had and just do our own thing. But we did have some. We used like the physios in there. Heather, who was absolutely amazing, and all the facilities that they had there. It was good to have that. We didn't really plan on using that at the start. We had our own little place, our own little gym reserved. But then once we saw the Performance Institute, we were like, right, forget that little place we have. This is the spot to be.
Right. Yeah, it looks pretty amazing. Now it's funny because I remember sending you a message on, I think it was the second day of the world tour of the press conference, and I said something like, "You look like you're having the time of your life up there." Obviously that was a crazy summer for you guys, a crazy July and August. Looking back on it now, what are your memories of MayMac? What are your memories? What do you take away from that experience?
To be honest, I enjoyed the whole experience, but I would just absolutely love to run it again. I would love to see a rematch. And I know that Mayweather said that, he's retiring,
right.
And I would never usually disrespect a fighter that, wanted his privacy and wanted to retire. Yeah. I would never be calling for a rematch in that sense, but he has retired multiple times in the past. So I feel that gives me a bit of a forgiveness, or sort of to just call for that rematch again between him and Conor. I saw Conor do a lot of things really well in the fight, and I feel with small, minor little adjustments, a victory can be obtained.
It was so interesting, literally sitting there at the beginning of the fight, like I was shaking. I had such an adrenaline, so I can only imagine what you were going through. But I was sitting there and I was shaking. It's like, what if he pulls this off? Like, this is going to be incredible, And obviously, the way the fight started, he was doing so well, and it was a competitive fight. And whether or not people say, "Oh, Mayweather was letting him do this or letting him do that," whatever, that's their own argument.
That is the most crazy thing people can say. Letting somebody hit you in the face. Are you fucking serious? Who does that? Especially Mayweather. He is not. If he can walk in there, not take a single shot and win, he is doing that. He got hit because he couldn't avoid them. And I felt after reading some of the comments of people in the boxing world, I realized most people haven't got a breeze what's going on there, or they just hate so much that they can't bring themselves to actually give an honest opinion and an honest analysis of what actually took place inside that ring.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because, like I said, I was sitting there and it's really shaking, and I thought that this could actually happen, and he's going to pull this off. And there was this really and I don't want to overstate this, but it was like a real sense of pride. Like I do feel like, there was that whole conversation of, is it good for MMA? Is it good for boxing? Is it this? Is it that? I used to work for Showtime Boxing. I obviously enjoy that sport as well, but there really was I felt it like a sense of we're doing this. And I just, so, I really feel like a lot of us were in there really wanting this to happen and really believing that it could. Even if defying the odds, no doubt, defying the odds, but it could have happened.
Yeah, but the odds, what are the odds? Those motherfuckers haven't got a clue, the ones that make odds. How many times do you see crazy odds and then the fight goes completely the wrong way? Right. You see that all the time. Odds are just based on opinions, because it's a business at the end of the day. If someone is betting heavy on one guy, then obviously odds will represent that. Right. It's an economy thing. It's not necessarily a skill thing.
True. Well, and I did have to correct these guys because they were from the boxing world, and they just kept saying, you know, when Conor would clinch up, they're like, "Oh man, he wants to take him down so badly. He wants to take him down so badly." And I kept sitting there like just quiet for a while, and they kept saying, and then finally I just looked at them and I was like, you know, actually, I was like, he'd really prefer to knock his fucking block off. You know what I mean? And I was like, I can't. I was like, I guess you guys have never seen him fight. And it's not like he's afraid to go to the ground, but I was like, apparently you guys don't know who is in here right now because he's not a guy that's going to just try to sit and take you down.
Exactly. These guys haven't got a breeze. Like for them, just for the most part, they literally just that's one thing I took away from this, that they just haven't got a clue. People just don't understand what actually is happening there. You know, one guy says something and then they just all repeat, "Oh yeah, this is what's going to happen." But they can't actually just look at the fighter and just break him down and analyze what's happening. To be honest, I actually understood that when before Conor even fought Aldo, because everyone was not giving him any chance at all. But in terms of how he defeated Aldo, you could see that the pattern from his fight against Rematch. Because that was a very, very similar fight in a way. I know Rematch is not Aldo, but just the way, the movement and the style, you could see that Aldo would have a lot of problems against Conor in that fight, but no one else picked up on that.
Nobody. So, of course, then we have to ask, you know, are you, you know, if and when he's going to fight again? He's claimed maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. He put out a cryptic picture from Grand Theft Auto the other day with Tony's name. Did you like that Tony Kevin Lee fight? I mean, were you impressed at all by that?
You know, there's one thing I will tell you now, right? People say about money fight, Conor's money fight. There is not one fight that was a money fight for him. Every fight makes sense. Look, he took out the whole featherweight division. He destroyed Aldo in 13 seconds. There was nothing left for him to do in the featherweight division. So he moved on to the lightweight division. Now, what happened was that Dos Anjos pulled out and didn't show up. Conor still wanted to fight. The Nate Diaz loss happened, so he had to get that back at the same weight class. So that's why the second one happened. After that, he went back to his original plan of going up in weight and taking on the lightweight champion, which he did and won that. And after that, he is such an impressive man that likes to challenge himself so much that he dared to try and achieve the impossible, something that 49 men before him have failed to achieve. And he thought, you know what, I can do this. I mean, how can you not respect that? And then he went in there and tried that. And now that that's over, well, now he's back to defending his belt. You know, in my eyes, of course, he's going to fight Tony. Why wouldn't he fight Tony? I mean, his belt is on the line now. Some guy has this fake belt around his waist. Conor wants to just, take that away by all means. So in my eyes, 100% he is going to fight Tony. I mean, who else is he going to fight? Why wouldn't he fight Tony? Why wouldn't he defend that belt? That belt means a lot to Conor. He's dreamed since a very, very long time ago of having that belt. So it's going to be damn hard to try and, take that belt from him. He's going to be defending that belt for a long time.
Good. I love hearing that. And I love that matchup too, by the way. I mean, I know, Tony is a very unorthodox guy and he's tricky and all that, but I feel like watching the two of them together in the octagon would be amazing. Also just leading up to the fight, I think the press conferences and stuff would be highly entertaining between the two of them because I do feel like I know Tony's taken some shots and said this or that about Conor, but I do baseline think that he has a lot of respect for him. So.
Yeah, well, Tony, he's a good fighter for sure. He's no pussy. He fights hard fights. That's for sure. But just watching his fights, he does take, one too many shots in there, and it might be okay against anyone else. But against Conor, that's not going to go that well for him. I mean, even against Barboza, he had to start diving for those, takedowns. You don't do that when the fight is going your way. You do that because you felt the power and you don't want none. So that's when you start diving for those takedowns. Right. But I feel Conor is a lot more powerful than Barboza, a lot more precise. He's got a record to prove that. And I feel it might be an early night for Tony.
Nice. Well, we shall see. I'm really looking forward to watching you and Andre. If you could make a prediction, how would you see this fight going?
We're going to throw down, it's going to be a great fight.
You always throw down though, Artem. It's not like you ever go out there and you go, I'm going to be really technical. I'm going to be this. I'm going to score some points. You go out there and you say, I'm going to wreck the dude.
Exactly, and that's, to me, that's the way everyone should fight.
Yeah.
And I feel, Philly, even though he's long fighter, and often, tall guys, they like to kind of be on the back foot,
Right.
but he comes forward a good bit. So, I feel we're gonna, clash in the center, and we're gonna have a knock, and then we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Let the toughest man win.
All right. Well, awesome. As we already established, it's a home game for you. So tough luck for Touchy Feely. You're going to have a lot of support in the crowd, huh?
Absolutely.
Awesome, Artem. Well, thank you so much. I know, these time differences can always be really tricky, so I appreciate you. How are you on your weight? I was just going to say skipping dinner to talk to me, but maybe you couldn't have dinner anyway. I don't know.
Look, you never have to worry about me not showing up to a fight. You never have to worry about me pulling out. You never have to worry about me not making weight. I'm a professional from the start till the end. So you don't have to worry about me. I'm going to be on weight on that scales on Friday morning.
Nice, nice, nice. I love hearing it. Thank you so much for the time, Artem. Best of luck to you. Go out there and have some fun. Keep your hands up.
Thank you very much. We'll see about that.